At that point, the UAE is cutting trade and financial ties with Iran after intercepting 2 Iranian missiles. But Tehran denies the attack, calling the claim, quote, completely unfounded. Now Iran is reportedly considering strikes on U.S. military assets in Europe if President Trump escalates the conflict. Meanwhile, President Trump was asked about reopening talks with Iran earlier today.
Maybe at some point, but right now, I think the situation is so good, but maybe at some point. Look, it's very simple. They have to get rid of no nuclear weapons. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. You know why? Because they'd use it.
All right, let's bring in retired 2-star Marine Corps General Arnold Punaro. General, it's great to see you. So the president seems quite comfortable to let Iran twist in the wind. In addition to that statement, he put this out on Truth Social yesterday. He said there are no talks or conversations going on or scheduled with the Islamic Republic of Iran. The naval blockade remains in full force in effect. The Hormuz Strait is open and operating. All water mines have been removed or detonated. He feels like he's in the catbird seat here.
John, before getting to that very important topic, I want to compliment you, Sandra and Fox, for that very powerful segment you just did about the mother that was murdered in Great Falls. That's in our backyard. You and I know that area well. And those of us that are Fairfax residents, we have an obligation when we vote for law enforcement personnel and prosecutors, we vote people in that are going to crack down on these areas. In terms of your answer about Iran, I would have said before you made all those comments, we were in a protracted stalemate. But obviously, Iran is escalating. They clearly attacked the UAE. I don't care if they denied it. They did it. The UAE has stopped trade, as your segment said, billions of dollars a year. Iran is still attacking ships in the Straits of Hormuz, although they claim the straits are open, and we take that same position. The Wall Street Journal's most recent analysis is prior to the conflict, 130 ships a day. Now it's a trickle, maybe 3 to 4 on a good day, 6. And now Iran is threatening they're going to escalate against U.S. targets outside of the Middle East area of operations into southern Europe. If they attack a U.S. target in a NATO nation, they just triggered Article 5. 32 nations then will be at a war with Iran. And so I would say they're making a big mistake thinking that they have the upper hand. They don't have the upper hand. The president is correct to keep the economic and maritime pressure on, and time is on our side.
You know, General Jack Keane, I know he's not Marines, but he agrees wholeheartedly with you about Iran maybe going to shoot itself in the foot by doing that. Listen to what he said here.
The Iranians are about to miscalculate, and they've done it before with this president. And they believe that being more aggressive, being more violent to create the image that this war is not working right and is going to cause him political damage, he's not going to stand for that. I believe they'll go after everything that they value. What do they really value? What they value the most is all of their oil and gas infrastructure. And I think that's very likely that we would take that down once and for all.
You know, as I said, the president at the moment thinks that he's got time on his side. The price of oil is high, but not that high. Iran is sort of getting frantic here about trying to get the attention of the president. He's just really kind of not paying attention to them. But if they do go this extra mile, as you said, an attack on NATO, one nation is an attack on all, could trigger an Article 5 response. But at the very latest, Iran claims that it's trying to put together a coalition to some other countries against the United States, but it looks like the world's against them at this point.
No question about it. And I have immense respect for General Jack Keane, longstanding colleague of many of us. By the way, he's the first person maybe 10 years ago that publicly talked about the threat from China. I think his analysis is spot on. I would say that if Iran thinks, because of the mid-year politics, the president's going to blink or not, keep the pressure on, I think they're just sadly mistaken. And I don't see them getting anybody on their side. When you attack your allies and your neighbors that you trade with, that's not a very smart move. When you talk about triggering Article 5 in NATO, that would be one of the most foolhardy military things I could think of.
Yeah, well, they don't seem to be too bright these days. In addition to this attack against the UAE, the other day, the office of Masroor Barzani, who is the Kurdish leader, the prime minister in Iraq, was attacked by Hadid 110 drones, which are Iranian stealth drones. Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister, went on X to say, we didn't do this. This is a complete false flag. But clearly it was an Iranian attack.
Absolutely. And again, they're so foolish. Why would you mess with the Kurds? I would not want to tangle with the Kurds.
Yeah, they seem to be just miscalculating left, right, and center.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see where it goes. General, thanks for joining us. And
always a privilege.
Appreciate it.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.